Well, at least we have the Ian Jackson dunk.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. Welcome into this live postcast edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. It's the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, guiding you as we unpack this game, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listener watch right after the Carolina game, even on a late Tuesday night after a very disappointing loss. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, our Locked On Tar Heels Discord members, and our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if you win, you get $300 in bonus bets. Check it all out at FanDuel.com. Oh, the North Carolina Tar Heels fall at Wake Forest 67-66. They drop to 12-8 on the season, 5-3 in ACC play, and it's time yet again for a therapy session. What we're going to do, since it's so late, we're going to do our live postcast reaction show right now. And then instead of recording Wednesday's show tonight on Tuesday, for those of you listening and watching in real time, I'm actually going to do the Wednesday show live 10 a.m. Eastern time on Wednesday morning. So make plans to join me on YouTube or listen back to it later on audio platform. So there we go with that. Okay, as we always do, we're going to unpack this game, the loss at Wake Forest, big picture things, small picture things, all sorts of stuff. And thank you so much. Lots of people jumping in to join me here later at night for a therapy session. I see a lot of people hopping in and a lot of comments already. Can we just start with something positive? Is that okay? I need it in my life. We'll get to it all, I promise. But can we just start with the Ian Jackson dunk? That, like, one of the few highlights of this night. And oh my goodness, he starts running with this ball. And I was like, he's about to take off and he's going to try to do this. And oh, how much sweeter that it was on Hunter Sallis. Oh, just beautiful. Ian going off for it. We'll take it. And I was so pleased with it. Great stuff there from Captain Jack. And I in real time, I was like, oh, that's better than Cooper Flagg's dunk. And much to my surprise, here's Corey Alexander agreeing. Corey Alexander saying that something a Carolina Tar Heel player did was better than something a Duke player did. I was shook. I tell you, folks, bravo, Corey Alexander. Ain't many times in life I'm going to say that, but bravo. Okay, now let's turn to what we actually need to talk about. And here's the biggest thing for me. I mean, lots of things, but right here, Carolina's inability to execute the little things late, yet again, is their death sentence. The Tar Heels go down by 10 points, which never should have happened. The offense, I don't know what happened to the offense. It just fell apart. When Carolina went up 16-7, I think it was early when Elliott had that great run. We'll talk about Elliott in a minute with another very positive from this game. I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing tonight. This is how we respond to the loss at home to Stanford. And then it was like the offense just forgot how to play offense. But then thankfully, Carolina, second half, they're down 10. They go on this great stretch. And I even wrote in my notes, this has been a great comeback, but can Carolina actually get on top of this thing? And they did on a Jalen Withers 3, 54-53. And I immediately right then, because we've seen it all season long, right? You know it, I know it. We've seen it. This is great. Carolina has gotten the lead. Now the big question is, can they do what's necessary to execute down the stretch to win this basketball game? And the answer was a resounding no. Yes, they fought and clawed and scraped in the last 60 seconds. Great, honorable, love that. But they didn't do enough everywhere else to make it actually count. Because after Carolina took that 54-53 lead, They then promptly surrendered to Wake Forest a 12-2 run. And you might recall after the Stanford game, I said, in a game where so many of the statistical categories are close, you have to do all these little things in the margin to be able to win the basketball game. I'm looking for Carolina to do that against Wake Forest. But here's what happened in like the next 3 possessions. I'm not going to talk the whole 12-2 run right now, but let's just go boom, 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 the next 3 possessions after Carolina took that 54-53 lead. They go down and they get a stop. They get a great stop on defense. It's like, okay, get a rebound. Let's go score again. Start stretching this lead out. But you know what happens? As has been the case in so many painful moments this season, the Tar Heels can't get a defensive rebound to finish that possession. Consequently, Wake gets a putback, and now they are the team that's back in the lead. Yet, and I'm looking at their offensive rebounding numbers right now, 10. So right back a game after Carolina had stopped their streak of 5 games surrendering double-digit offensive rebounds, is right back. It happened. Ooh, and I just saw the total rebounding numbers. Wake wins 41-33. That's not good. So Carolina, that's the first Wake possession right after they take a lead. Can't get the defensive rebound. Boom, they're in a hole. Next possession for Carolina. Jalen Withers thinks, you know what? That last 3 went well. Let me jack up another one. And it wasn't in the same spot, but it was very reminiscent of the 3 against Alabama because there were still 17, 18 seconds on the shot clock. There's no need for that. You had just taken a lead and you go down by 1. And it's like, all right, we need to work clock, get a good shot, a good possession. Nah, Jay Witt's like, you know what? Same spot. I'm feeling good. Let me heat check. This is not the moment for a heat check. Quite frankly, never is that. I appreciate and I'm thankful for Jalen Withers. He is not somebody on this team that should be heat checking from 3. All due respect. So then Wake Forest goes back and ultimately gets a dunk on the other end from Spillers. Now it's another hole, right? From 54-53 lead to a 54-57 deficit. And then on the other end, Elliot Cadeau tries to split the defense. I get it. He's been able to do that a lot during the game, but Wake gets a turnover. Should have foul been called? I don't know. There was a lot. Look, we're not going to blame the refs. This game was refereed very differently from one half to the other. We'll talk about that more in a second. There's no foul called there. RJ has to foul Tyler Johnson on the other end. He makes 1 of 2, but that is the first 5 points of the Wake run of a 12-2 run that essentially put this game away despite what Carolina did late. Because Carolina couldn't get a defensive rebound to end a possession, Jalen Withers took an ill-advised 3 for a heat check, and then Elliott turnover, which again, he had a fantastic game. I hate to have to nitpick, but when we're just looking at, did you do the little things? They didn't in those moments. So there it is. And then ultimately, again, Carolina mounts a ridiculous comeback late and nearly gets it, but don't. And I've already posted this on social media. I said, boy, does that questionable goaltending call loom large. And people are just lighting me up. And it's fine. I can tell you, I'm used to it. This is what happens. But everybody's like, oh, yeah, well, there were 50 million other plays. Absolutely there were. But it's a 1-point loss. Of course, we're going to mention all the what ifs. Here's a couple things about that play. Number one, Elliot Cadeau, in my humble opinion, not an ACC referee, just a dude with curly hair hanging out talking to you about Carolina basketball. I really thought Elliot had committed the foul on the ground before they went up. Secondly, Jalen Washington, again, in my humble non-referee eyeball opinion, got that ball at the peak before it started coming down. And this is where I do not like how the NCAA forces refs to adjudicate goaltending. Here's the problem. Do you remember at the end of the NC State game when, I almost said Dave Dorn, that's their football coach, when Kevin Keats wanted a goaltending call on the Jalen Washington block that basically ended the game? You remember that? The reason they couldn't go back and look at it is because they didn't call goaltending on the floor. If you don't make a call, you cannot, by NCAA rulebook, you cannot go back and review those foul that call. But if you make a call on the floor, you can go back and look at it. But here's the problem. If you make that call on the floor in a moment like that, because you know you're going to need to go review it, but there's not video evidence enough to overturn it, you've made the call based on what the rule book is telling you to do, rather perhaps instead of what your eyeballs actually saw as a referee. And then if you decide you can't overturn it because there's not enough evidence, remember, I believe the verbiage was play stands as called, not confirmed. That sucks, man. That is a rule book call against North Carolina in what ended up being a 1-point game. That was a 3-point play instead of a foul with 2 shots. A 3-point play instead of potentially 2 in a game that Carolina ultimately lost by 1. And yes, everyone on Twitter is right. There are a million other plays that Carolina could have or should have made to get this game, but that's frustrating. That is very, very frustrating. And speaking of late game things, Carolina not able to execute a game, it's 2 games in a row now. Stanford at home on Saturday, and now this game at Wake Forest, where the opposing coach has thrown a 1-3-1 at Carolina in the final 2-ish minutes of the game. Kind of confounding things. Remember, RJ had a turnover at the top of that zone the other day, had a really nice play against it today. I think it was it Elliott out on the right wing just in front of the Carolina bench. Then Allen Lubin had a screen in the post with Seth sitting there. Nice look to Seth, and I think, if I remember correctly, just couldn't finish it. What was a great look, a great play design, but ultimately Carolina couldn't finish that, and that's frustrating. So here we go, man. It's just another game of lack of late execution, of lack of valuing possessions in the middle of the game that lead to bad moments late in a game. So, we started our talk today with some happy moments. Ian Jackson's dunk. We're going to take a quick break here in just a second, but then I actually do want to get to another happy moment because Elliott Cadeau had himself a career night on Tuesday. And we'll do that right after I tell you about FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if you win, you get $300 back in bonus bets. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement, FanDuel's got you covered. And how about this? Unless the line changed right before game time, the line in this game was 1.5 in favor of Wake. Carolina was losing by 4 until that RJ Davis bucket at the buzzer that made it 1. As they say, that was a play that mattered to some. I think that might show up on Bad Beats next week. Anyway, visit it all. Check it out at FanDuel.com and get started today with $300 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Isaac Shade here with you post-game after Carolina's 66-67 loss at Wake Forest. Very unfortunate. But we do want to talk a couple happy yay things. Elliott Cadeau, he got things going in a hurry for North Carolina early, scored on 4 straight Tar Heel possessions. He had a 3, layup, and an and one made the 3. At that point, I believe he personally was beating Wake Forest like 10-7 or something like that. Finishes the game, though, only had 4 other points, 14 total points, 5 of 10 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 2 of 3 at the free throw line, had 5 rebounds, 2 steals. But man, Elliott, 13 helpers, 13 assists against 3 turnovers. That is a career high for this young man, whose previous career high was 12, which he did against Campbell, had 11 against NC State, and his other double-digit assist game was Tennessee. Last year, he had 10. So this is his 4th career double-digit assist game, his 3rd this season. And that's the Elliott Cadeau you need. Here's another that, like, perhaps even more, equally importantly, to his aggressiveness scoring and his helpers, his assists. He picked up a foul, Elliott Cadeau did, in the first 2 and change of this game. And I have been critical of Elliott's tendency to get into foul trouble, so I want to praise him loud and boisterously when he does this well. I wrote in my notes, oh man, that's dangerous early. Can Elliott stay away from foul number 2? And there were a couple times when he could have picked up a foul and might have at other moments of this season. There was a Wake Forest transition play in the first half where he kept great verticality in transition, did not pick up the foul, and I think Wake actually missed the shot. That was reminiscent of what Elliott has done late in games, right? Remember, Carolina has had multiple, I think we've talked about 4 different games now where they've had to face a defensive possession at the end of game scenario. And 3 of those 4, it's been Elliott as the prime defender, and Carolina has won those games. So kudos to Elliott for not picking up that second foul. In fact, as you look at the box score, don't just be a box score looker, because you look at it and you're like, oh, Elliott Cadeau had 4 fouls. Nah, that ain't it. Elliott's second foul didn't come till just under 6 minutes left in the game. And then the other 2 fouls came as Carolina was fouling late to send Wake Forest to the free throw line. So very, very good all-around game, I thought, from Elliott Cadeau, and was Carolina's best player in this game, with all due respect to RJ, who actually outscored him with 21 points. That said, let's move now to RJ. RJ, 8 of 16 from the field. So happy for him to shoot 50%. 3 of 9 from 3. That's 33%, which, isn't great, but it brings his season average up. 2 of 2 from the free throw line. Oddly, RJ, who's been having a lot of assists this year, maybe because they all went to Elliott on Tuesday night, just 1 assist and 2 turnovers, but did have 2 steals. And so just really always encouraging when you can see RJ have a game the way things have been going this year. But, back to kind of some maybe negative news. Outside of Elliott and RJ, who shot a combined 13 of 26, that's exactly 50%. It was a rough night for the vast majority of the rest of the Tar Heels. Ian Jackson got going early. His first shot was the 3, made it, and then had 2 other good looks at 3 pretty soon after that, missed them. He did have that dunk, which was great, but other than that, only made 1 other basket, 7 total points, and they were all in the first half. Ian finishes 3 of 11 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3, didn't get to the free throw line, and that's disappointing. But again, he has carried Carolina so well for so long this season offensively that he should be allowed to have some games like this, right? That is human, and that is freshman. It happens, and he needs other guys to pick him up. Elliott and RJ did in this game, but nobody else was able to. Drake Powell finishes 2 of 8 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. Jalen Washington, a decent game from the field, didn't really get many field goals, 2 of 5 from the field. And finally, J-Wash hit his first 3 of the season. It was in desperation time, but he hit it. And, almost had he hit that, he had a second one that would have made it a 1-point game with 8 or so seconds left. Missed that one. It's not really the guy you want taking that, but you'll take anybody because Wake was trying to foul at that moment. So you can live with that. But just 3 rebounds for J-Wash. Need more out of him. Vin Allen Lubin was the leading rebounder with 7. So that's helpful. So we were talking about those. And then Seth Trimble, 2 of 8, 0 of 3 from 3. And so you combine Drake Powell, Ian Jackson, and Seth. I'm going to do some quick math here. I meant to do it beforehand. That's a combined 7 of 16, 11 is 27 of 27 from those 3 guys combined. And from 3, 1 of 10, 1 of 14 from 3 for the combination of the 2 freshmen, Ian, Drake, and Seth Trimble. Meanwhile, Elliott and RJ go 5 of 13 from 3. That's great, but just not enough from enough sources. And Carolina's offense, let's be honest, it just looked flat out stuck in the mud often tonight. There was a long stretch in the first half where Carolina went scoreless. I could probably find it in real time, but I'm going to wait and I'll have that on tomorrow's show. I don't want to waste your time right now because it's late, but then had an over 5-minute drought in the second half. And the defense let's be honest, the defense did enough to win this basketball game. The 6th straight game holding an opponent to 73 or fewer points. The 3rd time in the last 4 games that Carolina has held an opponent under 30 points in the first half. Yes, Hunter Sallis got to 14 points, but he needed 19 shots to get there. You did your job on Hunter Sallis, but so similarly to what happened on Saturday against Stanford, where yes, Maxime Reynaud scored 25 points, but he needed 24 shots to get there. The problem was that Cam Hildreth scored 20 points, 10 of which came at the free throw line, 10 of 12, because Carolina, some through their own doing, some through I thought was a weirdly officiated basketball game, allowed Wake to get to the free throw line 27 times. That's just too many. I don't care how the game's being called. That's too many, and you cannot do that and feel like you're going to win a basketball game on the road. Speaking of Carolina's ugly offense, you can probably assume this based on what we were talking with those shooting numbers, but the Tar Heels three-point shooting was just bad in this game. 8 of 32, 25% on the button. Wake was even worse at 13%, but they only took 15. They took less than half of the shots Carolina did from three and only made 2 of them. But again, they only took 15 and then, did a lot of other stuff from 2. And Michael Coe, our buddy who's been on the show a couple times, said on Twitter after the game, quote, look, if you're 3 of 14 from 3 in the first half, which Carolina was, and then take half of your first 16 shots of the second half from 3, that's not a smart game plan, and that's on coaching. There's no way UNC should be settling for a contested 3 out of a timeout. It's just not good basketball, end quote. And Michael's got a great point there. That's just not what Carolina should be doing. Your guards, the best thing you have on your team offensively, have to drive and get to the bucket. And in the second half, where Carolina took more than half of their shots from 3, the Tar Heels, who were 6 of 10 from the free throw line in the first half, which you'd love and they should hit more, did not attempt a single free throw in the second half. A lot of that is on Carolina for not penetrating and forcing the ref's whistle, but also this was an oddly officiated basketball game. Oddly. There were so many fouls called in the first half. And then the second half, it was like, we're officiating a different basketball game. That's like if you're an umpire having one strike zone for the first 4 innings and then completely changing it for the second 5. If you're going to call it like that in the first half, call it like that in the second. It was an ugly first half of basketball, but that's because the refs were blowing their whistle every second. Let's see. In the first half, Carolina committed 13 fouls. In the first half, Wake Forest committed 14 fouls. That's 27 first half fouls combined. In the second half, Wake committed 9, and Carolina in the second half committed. No, I had it backwards. Sorry. Carolina committed 9, and Wake committed just 4. And how many of Carolina's 9 were in the closing seconds as the game was getting away? I'd love to go back and count that. That means that is a completely different officiated game from the first half to the second. That's inappropriate, and that doesn't facilitate the same level of basketball. For me, the whole game should have been played like the second half was. There were far too many whistles in the first half. But again, if that's how you're calling it, you got to keep doing it that way. Not great from the officials, and we got to recognize that. Just so much in this game. And again, as you look at the box score, for those of you watching on YouTube, I've got the box score up. North Carolina won a lot of statistical categories in this game. They had a higher 3-point percentage. They lost the rebounding battle, but Carolina had fewer turnovers. Carolina had more points off turnovers. Carolina, Wake led second chance points. That makes sense. Carolina had far and away more bench points than Wake. Carolina had more points in the paint. Carolina led fast break points 12-0. Carolina led steals 8-4. Carolina led assists 18-7. But there were enough of the categories where Wake won out in a big way. For example, 21 of 27 from the free throw line to Carolina's 6 of 10. That's going to do it right there. Wake Forest offensive rebounds led 10-8. That's pretty close, but they led second chance points 13-7. It's the little things like that where Carolina failed, and they've got to be better if they want to win these basketball games. And we haven't really gotten to talking about, what this means and ramifications. We'll do that on Wednesday's live show. There are a lot of comments, and I'm sure that there are some questions that we've got, and I want to look at those, see if we've got anything else we want to hit on before we get out of here, and we'll do that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to get real money sports action. They've got over 10 million members and billions of winnings. With that, Prize Picks has really changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. And now that it's playoff time, there's no better time to get in on the action than with Prize Picks. Basically, what they do is they give you a player and a stat, and you just pick whether you think they're going to get more or less than that on at least 2 players. And if your picks hit, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Even if one of those misses with Prize Picks flex play, you can still double your winnings and get paid in as little as 15 minutes. NFC Championship game coming up this weekend. How about Saquon Barkley? His rush yard set at 127.5. Definitely taking more on that because this dude is insane. So you ready to run your football game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, it's going to take me a minute to scroll all the way up to the top, and that's just going to be what it is. Joseph's recap says, Withers shouldn't have taken the second 3 when we were out by 1. Jalen Withers is so yin and yang for me. For example, I thought the first 3 he took was wise shot. He was wide open. It made sense in the flow of the offense, and it put Carolina up 1. But there were other moments of the game. For example, I believe this was in the first half. Jalen Withers caught the ball in the corner and tried to drive baseline, bully his way in. And what happened? I mean, you could read it. It's almost without fail going to be a turnover or an offensive foul, which is also a turnover. And in this case, it was an offensive foul. Literally the second he got the ball in the corner, I said, there's a turnover. He drives the lane, just runs over the defender, and it's a foul call. It's like, yeah, what did you expect was going to happen? And then again, I loved the Jalen Withers 3 out on the wing to give Carolina that 54-53 lead. But the problem was taking that second one. Yes, he was a little bit open. It was in the first half of the shot clock. Carolina had just surrendered the lead they had attained because of allowing an offensive putback. And I thought there surely, that as people often say, that's a shot you can get at any point in the shot clock. So if that comes around back to you and there's 4 seconds left and you got to take it, absolutely. That's not the moment for a heat check. And so that's just that. It's unfortunate. What was Jay? Let's look at Jay Witt's line for this game while we're talking about it. 10 minutes played, 1 of 2 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. We just talked about both of those. A rebound and assist, 2 turnovers, -1. So it's basically what we just talked about was what Jay Witt contributed in this game. So it is what it is right there. Jedi Shogun, this team is so frustrating to watch lose the way they do. And I know that's just a simple statement, but I put it on here and say it because it's just wildly true. The at times ineptitude on offense is befuddling to me. There is so much potential offensive talent on this team. And it just doesn't come to fruition so often, whether it's not moving the ball. We talked about Elliott's 13 assists. Love that. But at other times for different players, and sometimes even Elliott, the ball will stick, or, there were like back-to-back possessions tonight for Jalen Washington, for example, where he should have corralled a rebound on the defensive end, and it just kind of got poked away from him. And then it was either the play right before or right after that on the offensive end. He needed to go up strong, and he just got bullied, just blocked. Man, it's just frustrating. And I hate it for them. These guys are infinitely and exponentially more frustrated than you and I are. The coaching staff is infinitely and exponentially more frustrated. Coach Davis was inconsolate on the sidelines. He was livid at times, both with his team and at times at the officials for calls or for non-calls. I mean, it just some crazy stuff there. And they're like somebody says in here, Trimble was fouled on his layup. There's things like that just didn't go called, that in the second half, that would have been an easy whistle in the first half. There were bumps, all sorts of other stuff. Again, that was inappropriately adjudicated is how I would talk about this game. And so it's really unfortunate. Let's see if we can find maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Just a lot of Coach Davis stuff, and I don't, man. Hey, yeah. Okay. That's it for tonight. We're going to be done. We're going to get out of here. Carolina has a couple days off. They host Boston College on Saturday. Boston College is the worst team in the ACC. Like, they're just straight up bad. So it should be a moment for some catharsis And Carolina absolutely needs it because now they've dropped these 3 games in the ACC. And after Boston College, let me remind you of the 4-game upcoming slate after that. At Pittsburgh, at Duke, versus Pittsburgh, at Clemson. And then to top it all off, Syracuse isn't good, but you got to wrap up that trip up with a trip up to Syracuse. So that's 4 road trips in 5 games, 3 of which are at Pitt, at Duke, at Clemson. And Carolina has dug themselves this hole. And it is going to be even more difficult now than ever to dig themselves back out of. And that's just the way things are going to be. This team has not been able to show the consistency needed or just so much. And on a night when the threes aren't falling, how big does Cade Tyson's loom? Like the fact that he has just in no way been what we hope to be. And so, man, I apologize. I think I just accidentally took my audio out for a second. Hopefully I didn't go out for too long there for you all. But man, sad state of affairs. And Carolina has to reset. They've got to get back on the wagon because they're probably going to now be firmly on the bubble. They're probably now going to be out of a lot of brackets kind of again. And if they want to get themselves back into that, I've said I think Carolina, based on what happened in non-con, can take a max of 5 ACC losses. Now they already got 3. And they've still got both games at Duke, both games against Duke, 2 games against Pitt, a game against Clemson, and a few others. That got to go to Florida State. That's not going to be an easy win. So, y'all, I don't know what else to say for tonight. So we won't say anything else. Want to remind you, tomorrow, Wednesday show is going to be live on YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Would love for you to make plans to join me there. We'll unpack this game more, look ahead more, and some other stuff. Thursday, Coach Rob is going to join me on Caleb Wilson Commitment Day. I tell you, a lot of folks are saying, like, boy, with what's happening right now, we could use that Caleb Wilson commitment more than ever. So we'll talk about that on Thursday. Obviously, after the commitment, whether it is a celebration or a commitment therapy session, we'll go live together. I promise you that on Thursday. And then Friday, we'll get ready for the Boston College game and other stuff. All right, guys. If you haven't subscribed to the show, help us get to 10,000 YouTube subscribers in 3 years. We're getting so close. It's down to about 300 subscribers left to get there. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm talking to you right now. Hit subscribe. Thank you so much. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, that's a great place to be to unpack all of this and more with us. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, that's the way to go even deeper with the show. You guys, even on a day like this, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. I really, truly believe that. Even I'm sure some of you are just like, Isaac, you're a lunatic, but it's true, man. It's true. It's a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow morning. Make sure to join me live 10 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube and later in your audio feed. But until then, peace.